Welcome, Dhungsey Asanga Vajra Rinpoche. Thank you so much for being here, making the time to teach us on one of Jamyang Khyentse Wangpo's texts. And of course, welcome everybody here in the audience. As you might know, Dhungsey Rinpoche is the youngest grandson of Jigdal Dakshin Rinpoche. He was born in Seattle, 1st of May. So happy belated birthday to you. And so Rinpoche is from the unbroken Khan lineage and was born in the Phuntsok Pöjang family. And based on his own wish, he started to study in Thala Monastery in 2005, and then later in the Sakya College in Rajpur in India. And so he's very well versed in both the Eastern Buddhist wisdom, ancient wisdom tradition, but also he knows the West very well. So that is a wonderful mix. So thank you so much for agreeing to teach. And I would like to introduce you to Dolma, who is our project manager. She is from Australia and she's really the queen and the heart of the program.
Hello, Rinpoche. It's so lovely to meet you. I don't think I've met you in person yet, so it's really a delight. It's also a special delight to welcome you to be our special guest teacher for our Text of the Month initiative that we're doing these days. So it's an honor to have you, and thank you so much for agreeing to teach us. Welcome, and I'm very much looking forward to listening to this session. Thank you.
Hello, thank you, Jama. Lovely to meet you as well.
Yeah, really, without her, we would be lost. And yeah, so Rinpoche kindly agreed to teach on a text called The Yoga of Unparalleled Compassion. It is a mind training instruction by the Indian mahāsiddha Virūpa. And it was translated by one of our great in-house translators, Jamie Creek. So you will see the link in the chats. And also, Rinpoche, that you know, we have like 3 simultaneous translations today. We have Christina translating into Spanish. We have Carol translating into Portuguese, and Komga translating into Chinese. And if it's okay, then we would just start with some prayers, and then the stage will be yours. So let's have them here. I will share them for everyone. Homage to the Buddha, the teacher. Homage to the Dharma, the protector. Homage to the great Sangha. To all these 3, I continually offer homage. I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. I take refuge in the Sangha. I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. I take refuge in the Sangha. I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. I take refuge in the Sangha. Then there's a short prayer to Virūpa, also composed by Jamyang Khyentse Wangpo. Nor of all scriptures accepted and cared for by the Dakinis, glorious Virūpa, who achieved the state of realization, chief of the ocean of Siddha families, to you we pray. Dispel all obstacles and grant me ordinary and supreme siddhis. Then let's request the teaching by offering a short mandala. The earth is perfumed with scented water and strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the 4 continents, the sun and the moon. Imagining this as the Buddha realm, I offer it, so that all beings may enjoy that pure realm. Iram Guru Ratna Mandalakam Niryatayami. In accordance with the capabilities and the diverse aspirations of sentient beings, I ask you to please turn the wheel of Dharma of the greater, lesser, or conventional vehicles. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Rinpoche. Please teach us.
Thank you, Arne. So as requested earlier by Arne on behalf of the Khyentse Vision Project, I will be giving a teaching today, which I specifically chose. As I see, there are a number of translations of Jamyang Khyentse Wangpo's works already available on the website. And I chose a teaching which is very important, yet also quite easy to understand, and also which I have some familiarity with. And so I have not really received the actual transmission for this particular work by Jamyang Khyentse Wangpo himself, but I have received the original sort of direct transmission of the original version of the teaching, which we have in the Sakya tradition from His Holiness the 42nd Sakya Tenzin Rana Vajra Rinpoche. And so it's quite similar. And I think, these teachings generally, of course, did exist before the time of Jamyang Khyentse Wangpo, but a great non-sectarian master like himself, I believe, saw the need to compile these teachings, to include these teachings, and to write short commentaries on it, and to include it in his collected works, because sometimes there is a benefit to that for doing that, because sometimes the original versions get lost over time, or the transmissions die out. But then, and sometimes the transmissions survive in the collected works of certain masters like Khyentse Wangpo. And there are some kind of there have been some situations like that have occurred in the past, where the original version is lost, but you find something popping up in the collected works of a master from in a later time. And so that helps to for the teaching to survive, because that was, I believe, the mission of Khyentse Wangpo as a non-sectarian master, to preserve the teachings of the different lineages, the many different lineages. Yes. So I will read through and then give brief explanations, because I think the translation is quite clear. So for the beginning, we have Om Swasti. So it's sort of like saying, may all be auspicious. The alluring nectar of unparalleled compassion dispels all agonies of beings in the triple world. By means of the moon of bodhicitta, it makes the splendid water lily of liberation bloom as one desires. So usually at the beginning of a teaching, or at the beginning of a work, the master will write a praise to either the Buddhas or the Bodhisattvas, the Yidam deity, or some special quality. And in this case, Khyentse Wangpo is paying, in a way, it is paying homage, or he is praising the quality of compassion. And what is the quality of compassion? The quality of compassion, and in this case, unparalleled compassion, which can be understood as matchless compassion, like compassion at its highest stage, is that it is able to dispel the sufferings, the agonies or suffering of beings in the triple world, or the three realms. And the three realms can be understood in two different ways. It can either be referred to as the Naga realm, which is like the lower realm, and then the middle realm, which is the human realm, and then the higher realm, which is the realm of the gods. It can also refer to the desire realm, the form realm, and the formless realm, which make up the Buddhist universe. And so that is the quality of matchless or unparalleled compassion. And when it is equipped with bodhicitta, so bodhicitta itself is in a way an advanced version of compassion. It is built upon compassion. And without compassion, there cannot be any bodhicitta. So it is the highest form of compassion. So when it is equipped with the bodhicitta, which is like the moon, then the unparalleled compassion, which is like the water lily, may bloom. So in the Tibetan word, I believe, for the water lily is kumut, kumut, the water lily flower. And if I remember correctly, this type of flower blooms at night due to the moon rays. When the moon rays shine upon the flower, then the flower blooms, the water lily blooms. And so compassion is similar to the water lily, and the bodhicitta is like the moon. So I think the point here is that it shows that bodhicitta and compassion should go together. It should be together and not separate. Khyentse Wangpo then proceeds to write, "To this end, I shall offer this unstinging gift, the all teachings of the Siddha, unwaning nectar-like teachings, sole basis of sustenance for the fortunate." So, Khyentse Wangpo is providing this gift. He is giving this gift to all sentient beings, regardless of any kind of background. And this teaching is the teaching of the Siddha, mahāsiddha Virūpa, who is considered as one of the most powerful mahāsiddhas of India, and the most powerful Siddha among the 84 mahāsiddhas of India. And mahāsiddha Virūpa especially plays a very important role in the Sakya tradition because the Sakya tradition is based on the teachings, mainly based on the teachings of mahāsiddha Virūpa, because our prized cycle of practice is the lamdre, the path and its result, which is based on the root lines or the root verses composed by mahāsiddha Virūpa. And so I believe this yoga of unparalleled compassion itself does not really have a direct connection with the lamdre, if I'm correct, but it comes from the same master from which the lamdre originates. And so this second verse is also the sort of the promise of Jamyang Khyentse Wangpo to present this teaching. And then following that, it reads, "This pith instruction of Virūpa, Lord of Yogis, at whose steadfast lotus feet an ocean of panditas and siddhas of the noble land of India bowed the crown jewel of their heads in reverence, is the essence of the ocean-like collection of scriptures of the Mahayana, the teachings of the Buddha." So here, Khyentse Wangpo gives sort of a brief introduction to Virūpa, the Lord of Yogis. And so when we say Lord of Yogis, it is like the way we should understand this is that he is the king among yogis. There are many yogis of India, but he is the best among the best of the yogis of India. That is why he's referred to as the Lord of Yogis. In Tibetan, we refer to him as Nanjogi Wangchuk. So Wangchuk is the yogi. Wangchuk is the Lord, and Nanjo is yogi. So Nanjogi Wangchuk, and then we say Tupchen Virūpa or Virūpa. So Virūpa, the Lord of Yogis. And so Khyentse Wangpo is saying that Virūpa, the Lord of Yogis, was the source of many panditas and siddhas in the noble land of India. Many siddhas and panditas relied on the teachings of Virūpa in order to gain realization, be it directly or indirectly. They are indebted to him. And he is the source of many of the teachings, the Mahayana teachings, and of course the Vajrayana teachings of the Buddha as well. And regarding, as we continue with the teaching here, regarding how to practice the profound steps involved in this mind training instruction called Yoga of Unparalleled Compassion, the Vajra lines in its root text tells us, those who've protected you with boundless love are embodiments of kindness. Think of them with compassion. This perpetrator of harm, too, is my mother. Though she has shown repeated kindness to me in the past, she is out of control, as if she were insane. Owing to her negative karma, she will suffer in the Vichy hell. Through contemplating thus, your compassion for the three realms will become perfect. So this is the main part of the teaching of the Yoga of Unparalleled Compassion from the original version, which Khyentse Wangpo draws from. This is the original Vajra lines from the root text. So, as you will see, this teaching has much to do, as it is concerned with compassion. It has much to do with meditating or contemplating on a mother's kindness and the role in which all sentient beings have played as your mother in previous existences. And this is quite good. I don't remember if it was exactly planned, but today happens to be Mother's Day in the US and in many countries. Perhaps Arne had that in mind. I'm not sure, but I assume. And so it is good. I think today is a day to remember our mother's kindness, but as Mahayana practitioners, we also remember that all sentient beings have at one point been one's mother and have been very kind to us, and therefore we need to repay that kindness. And we need to understand the situation they are in. And for that, we must develop compassion. The goal of a Mahayana practitioner, or a bodhisattva, you can say, is to attain enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings. And the purpose of doing that is because we realize how kind all beings have been in the past when they were our mothers, and that we also understand that they are not free from suffering, and they are bound by the chains of karma and defilements, and therefore in the best way we come to understand that the best way to repay the kindness of other beings is to show them the way out of suffering. But also we understand that we currently, as ordinary sentient beings, are not capable of doing that. It is the activity of a fully enlightened Buddha in which you are in the best position to help others, to show them the path to the path to salvation. And this all starts with recognizing that all sentient beings have at one point been one's mother, and remembering, bringing to mind their past kindness. And so compassion, developing compassion is very important. But then the question arises, how do we exactly develop compassion? Of course, we need to develop it, but how do we do so? So this is the purpose of this mind training teaching. This teaching is classified as a mind training teaching. It falls in the mind training genre. And so Khyentse Wangpo, as well as mahāsiddha Virūpa, will show us how to do exactly that, how to develop compassion. And why is it called a mind training teaching? That's because the purpose of mind training teaching is a direct way to develop or to generate some kind of familiarity with the practice. So there are many different kinds of mind training practices. There are mind training practices on impermanence, on the rarity of the human birth, on karma, the faults of samsara, loving kindness, compassion, and wisdom, and many different subjects. And the current one is on love, on compassion. So just to go to this again, the root verses: those who protected you with boundless love or embodiments of kindness, think of them with compassion. So it shows that here that all the beings, and here we are not just referring to human beings. Sometimes when we say our mother, we naturally think of a human female, because that is what our mother is. But we are, in this case, referring to all of the females of, be it animal, a deva, like a celestial, or a human mother. And when we talk about sentient beings, we also should not limit our understanding to beings of planet Earth, because planet Earth is supposed to be just a small part of samsara. According to the Buddhist teachings, there are many universes and many different planets and many realms, and sentient beings are scattered throughout all of those realms. So we bring to mind all beings. And when we speak about mothers from past lives, we have to also understand that currently any kind of being has been one's mother in a past life. So it does not necessarily refer to a female. Any male you meet in your life is also your mother from a past life. Any being from any other gender, even if it's not male or female, have also been your mother in a past life. And of course, no need to say the females as well. So basically any being that breathes, or that has a mind at least, regardless of gender, is your mother from a past life. And they have been very kind to you. When they were your mother, they looked after you, they gave birth to you, and did all of that. So you must think of them. You must remember them, and remember them with great compassion. You should also understand, as it says here, this perpetrator of harm too is my mother. Though she has shown repeated kindness to me in the past, she is out of control, as if she were insane. Owing to her negative karma, she will suffer in the Vichy hell. So what this shows is that, yes, all sentient beings have at one point been one's mother and have been very kind to oneself in the past. But that doesn't mean that at the present time they will also be very kind to us, because in our lives we have perpetrator of harm. We have enemies, people who make our life more difficult than pleasant. And so our enemies, or the people who do us harm, are also our mother in our past life. And it's just that they do harm to us, not intentionally. Because if they remembered, if they had any recollection of their past lives as mothers to us, they would likely not behave as they currently do. But they are out of control. First of all, in most cases, each time we take rebirth, each time we die and we take rebirth, all of the memories from the past life get erased, and we have no recollection of the past events. And on top of that, what follows us from lifetime to lifetime is the defilements such as ignorance, attachment, and anger. And so, due to these, we get blinded by what is correct, and what is to be accepted and what is to be rejected. And we, on top of that, is of course we don't have any recollection of past lives, and so therefore we become strangers towards each other, and we develop negative thoughts and thoughts of doing harm to others. And so, because we fall under the influence of our negative emotions, and we are not able to control them, sentient beings will likely suffer in the Avishi hell and other realms, other places in the lower realms, the 3 lower realms. So Avishi hell is just an example. It is the most severe of the hot hells. But of course, you can fall into any of the lower realms as a result of your negative karma. And so therefore, we develop compassion towards our mother because we understand that they are not harming us in this life intentionally, but they are rather like out of control of their emotions, and they cannot be blamed. It is the main problem is their emotions, which they have not suppressed. It is not they themselves. So therefore, in this way, we are able to also, if this meditation technique or mind training also not only helps to develop compassion, but also helps to develop patience. If you want to develop the Buddhist practice or the Bodhisattva practice of patience, this is exactly what you need to think of. And so, as mahāsiddha Virūpa writes, through contemplating thus, your compassion for the 3 realms will become perfect. So he says that if you can contemplate on this, and when we say contemplate on this, it doesn't mean just once or twice, but you need to contemplate on it as much as you can daily. You need to become very familiar with this thought. In the beginning, none of these practices or thoughts arise naturally, unless you are very fortunate and you have some kind of past habitual tendencies from past lives of having practiced a lot. But otherwise, for beginners, and if you're new to the Buddhist practices, especially, you need to forcefully bring these thoughts to mind. And then eventually, due to the power of familiarity, these thoughts will become very natural, will arise naturally without having to put much effort into it. And that is the purpose of mind training. And so if you can contemplate on this as much as you can, then your compassion for the 3 realms, it means the beings of the 3 realms, will become not only good, but perfect as you get used to it. And then here, Khyentse Wangpo writes, the crux of this passage is that if bodhicitta is absent, it does not matter how much one practices the six perfections, the generation and completion stages, and so forth. Those practices will not function as causes for Buddhahood. Therefore, as great compassion is the foundation of all the qualities of a Buddha, one should give rise to it in one's heart. So this is a summary of the above verse from the root text, which Khyentse Wangpo is providing. And the main point of that is that if you do not have bodhicitta, if you do not include bodhicitta in your practice, if it is absent from your practice, then no matter what kind of practice you do, such as the six perfections, be it the perfection of generosity, of moral conduct, of patience, of diligence, of meditative concentration and wisdom, any of those practices of the Sutrayana path, of the perfection vehicle of Mahayana, or if it is any practice from the resultant vehicle of the Mahayana, which is the Vajrayana, such as the generation and completion stages. Whatever practice you do, which is so-called Mahayana practice, which falls into that category, will not become a Mahayana practice if you do not have bodhicitta. Although all of these practices have a Mahayana name to it, it does not become Mahayana practice. And what does it mean by not becoming a Mahayana practice? Means is that it will not become a practice which will contribute to your attainment of Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings, which is the goal of a Mahayana practitioner. It will basically not lead you to enlightenment, to full enlightenment. It will not serve as a cause for attaining Buddhahood. And so therefore, bodhicitta is essential. It is a requirement. It is not an optional practice. And it is therefore the foundation of all of the practices and all of the qualities of a Buddha. And so therefore, if one wishes to attain enlightenment, one should understand that bodhicitta is the main cause for attaining that. And therefore, one should focus on that practice. One should put all of one's effort into training in the generation of bodhicitta. And so in order to accomplish that, Khyentse Wangpo writes, there are two ways. Khyentse Wangpo presents two ways in order to accomplish bodhicitta: a direct meditation and a gradual meditation. So the direct meditation is quite simple and quite straightforward and quite short as well. To read that, it is said that once one has succeeded in having compassion for one's main object of hatred, compassion for everyone else will automatically arise too. This can be practiced as follows. So here, Khyentse Wangpo is saying that once you have perfected, or if not perfected, at least if you have become comfortable with meditating on compassion towards the person or the being whom you have most hatred towards, such as your enemy, the person or being who annoys you the most, then it will be easy to share that compassion for everyone else, because that is what really makes compassion, the practice of compassion, difficult is to practice it towards your enemies. it's easy to practice it towards someone who has been kind to you, such as your own mother or your best friend or your partner. But it's difficult to practice it towards someone who harms you, because usually we feel like we need to repay harm with harm. If someone harms us, we feel that we need to repay them in a similar way. They don't deserve our kindness. I think this is quite normal for us, in our daily lives to feel that way, because of course we are human beings with emotions, and we don't have much. In many cases, we don't have much training in compassion, or even if we do understand the practice of compassion, we find it difficult to actually apply it in our lives. And so therefore, when you're able to generate loving thoughts, when you're able to repay harm with kindness, thoughts of loving kindness and compassion, then really at that point you've become unstoppable. Nothing can stop you. You have a very strong kind of heart or mind, and you can go to any kind of, no matter how any person or being treats you, you can at that point repay them with kindness and not feel any kind of negative emotion towards them. So therefore, once you are able to practice compassion towards your enemy, then the point here is that it's very easy to practice compassion, to share the thought of compassion towards all other sentient beings. And the way to do that is, as Khyentse Wangpo writes, begin by cultivating bodhicitta after your meditation session or at any other convenient time. So here it shows that when we practice bodhicitta, you should not only practice it during the meditation session, but also the post-meditation session. In other words, meditation on bodhicitta is not something which you leave behind at the end of your meditation, along with your meditation seat, but you bring it along with you into any of your daily activities, whether you're walking, you're going on a stroll, you're sitting, you're eating, you're sleeping if you can. They say that if you get used to the practice, you can even bring the practices into your sleeping session. That's why we have something called sleeping yoga. Anyways, bodhicitta should be practiced at all times. But of course, you do not need to feel bad or that you're a failure if you're not able to practice it 24/7. That's fine. Eventually, it sounds difficult. How do you practice bodhicitta during not only during the meditation session, but also into the post-meditation session? It sounds like very demanding almost, but it's not actually as demanding or difficult as it seems, because it's difficult when you're not used to it. But once you get used to it, as Shantideva says, nothing remains difficult forever once you develop some sort of familiarity with it. Everything becomes natural, can become natural. And when it becomes natural, then that also means that it will become easy. And so you should practice it, bring it to mind at any kind of time. And the way to do that is, as he says, then visualize in front of you your worst enemy, someone who you would like to wreak vengeance on. Imagine what his or her body and face and so on are like. Think, oh, this poor enemy of mine, and visualize that their flesh has been removed and that they are no more than a trembling skeleton. Say out loud 100 or at least 21 times, oh, this poor enemy of mine. This is the meditation of the flow of compassion. So this is, as Khyentse Wangpo mentions, a direct meditation. So there's what my interpretation of that is, how I see that, or what I believe that means is that Khyentse Wangpo is providing a meditation which is on compassion, which is straight to the point. For the gradual meditation, he will, of course, provide a gradual process on how to build on compassion based on reasoning. But here, this, like, if you don't want to like think of too much and just want to go dive straight into the meditation on compassion, then this is one option you have. It's the direct meditation. And so, as he suggests, you should visualize your worst enemy. Your worst enemy and someone who you would often like to, you really want to do harm to. Someone you really hate. And here, this is quite unique because usually we say, of course, you should visualize this and visualize that. You should understand that they are suffering and that you need to develop compassion and all that. But here, not only that, but in this mind training practice, Khyentse Wangpo as well as mahāsiddha Virūpa indirectly provides practices where you should also recite, pity them, or something like that. Oh, this poor enemy of mine. You should recite it, actually verbally recite it. And I'll get to why that's important. But anyways, you also do need, it does also involve a number of visualizations, such as where all of their flesh is removed and that they are no more than a trembling skeleton. And I think this is, the point of doing this is to understand or to put them in a very sort of like a sad scenario, to place them in a very desperate kind of situation, a situation in which they are subject to suffering. Because when you just think about your enemy, usually you think about your own suffering, all of the harm that they have done to you, and you don't really find it easy to think of how do they actually feel, what are they going through. It's more about yourself. But when you visualize that, their flesh has been torn out and they are now nothing but a trembling skeleton, you can start to see how it just sort of hits you how, they also can suffer, right? They are also someone just like you who can suffer or can be in a very desperate kind of situation. And the point I think of doing this is also it makes it easier to practice compassion towards them. And so once you visualize them in such a state, then you should verbally recite, oh, this poor enemy of mine. And you can recite that 100 times or 21 times based on whatever is convenient for you. If you don't have much time, at least 21 times. If you have more time, then more than that. If it's awkward, you also need to read the room, and you need to look at if it's appropriate or not. If you're in a meeting or you're traveling with a group of friends and you suddenly blurt out, "Oh, this poor enemy of mine," then that would make it very awkward, and maybe they'll think that something's wrong with you. So, of course, if you're alone, maybe then it would be more appropriate to sort of verbally say this out. If you're not alone and you're busy traveling and you still want to practice, then at least think of this. You can sort of recite it in your mind. Because that also works. This is a mind training. The main point is, as long as you're training your mind, then all is good. So, and but there is benefits of verbally reciting it, because sometimes when you hear, it becomes easier sometimes than to just silently think of something. When you're verbally reciting, when there's like some sound, like, oh, this poor enemy of mine, and you're reciting it. If someone else recites it for you, that also works, but you can't always rely on others for your Dhamma practice. So that's why you should recite it by yourself. So when you say, oh, this poor enemy of mine, oh, this poor enemy of mine, what we say and believe is that you're creating a familiarity with this kind of practice. And so even if you don't have compassion towards, even if you don't feel pity towards others, if you say, oh, pity them, and then you just say that again and again every day, eventually something, it has to do with creating habitual tendencies, I guess, but it leaves sort of a footprint in the mind and you just end up suddenly actually feeling pity towards them. So this is something I've heard from my own teacher, and he said that there's an effect if you verbally recite these kind of lines, even if you don't feel it genuinely right now, you will end up feeling it eventually and genuinely. So that's the benefit. And so this is the meditation of the flow of compassion, and this is the direct meditation. Now to dive into the gradual meditation. The meditation on the reasons for compassion is as follows. So this is now, as it's the gradual meditation, all of the meditation layers are based on reasoning. So the first meditation layer, I would say, is reflect in the following way, reciting out loud, why should I have compassion for this person? Because this person was my mother. Oh, my poor mother. So here it's basically like you're having a conversation with yourself. You're giving yourself a reason to why you should be practicing compassion. And as it says here, you should also say this out loud, or if not out loud, at least verbally in a small tone. So why should I have compassion for this person? So we usually say you should practice compassion. You need to do this, you need to do that. But why? So if you have a reason in which you know why you should do that, then it becomes more, it makes more sense why you should do that. If you don't have a reason behind that and just say, I'm practicing compassion because my teacher told me to do so, or the text tells me to do so, then it's not very stable, because you haven't really thought it through yourself, and you also need to, and of course there's a process when you approach meditation. There's hearing, contemplation, and meditation. So there should be a contemplation. If you want a stable meditation, there should be a contemplation beforehand, and this is the contemplation. You're questioning things. Why should I have compassion for this person? And then you provide the answer to yourself, because this person was my mother. And then you say out loud, oh, my poor mother, as you understand that all sentient beings have been your mother, and that although they do not wish to suffer, just like you do not wish to suffer, they still suffer because they have not identified the correct causes of suffering. And because they have not been able to identify the correct causes of suffering, they have not been able to abandon it, which is why they are stuck with suffering. So you understand that and feel pity towards them and say, oh, my poor mother. So this is the first step. And then you can build on top of that. If you want to strengthen the compassion, then you go to the next step, which reads, this person has been my mother, not just once, but countless times, since beginningless time in samsara. Oh, my poor mother. So now you're strengthening that. The first contemplation is the base, it's the foundation, and as you move on, you're giving yourself more and more reasons, and the meditation on compassion, as you provide more reasons and as you contemplate on it, it makes more sense. And as it makes more sense, it becomes more easier to practice compassion. Because you start to see the need to do it because it makes so much sense to you. And you also start to see the connection which you have and the need to repay their kindness. So earlier in the first step, you just thought of beings and that all beings are your mother and that they are suffering. But in the second step, in the second meditation session, I guess you would say, this person has been my mother not just once, but countless times since beginningless time in samsara. So you are here, you're also integrating, although it does not directly say, you're also integrating the contemplation on karma, because it doesn't just concern this life, but now this concerns multiple lives from lifetime to lifetime. There's a connection, there's a continuation of karma, and so you come to understand that, and that that the sentient beings have not only been your mother once, but also multiple times, and this is not just recently, but from beginningless time in samsara. So this is what we believe as Buddhists, that samsara, or cyclic existence, is beginningless. There's no beginning. If you were to say, when was the beginning of samsara? Who was your first mother? What was your first existence? You cannot say this and this was the very first existence, or the very first mother, or the very first anything like that. It's difficult. It's actually impossible, we say, because samsara is beginningless. There's no beginning to it. And the reason why there's no beginning to it is because we have had ignorance from beginningless time. There's no point in which we say it was from this day onward that we had ignorance. We've had it with us forever. And so that's why if you were to say, to think about the beginning of time or the beginning of samsara, it's beginningless. Is there an end of time, or is there an end of samsara? That depends. There are two answers. Yes, there is an end to samsara for those who practice the Dharma, who seek to put an end to ignorance. For them, for those people, practitioners, there is an end to samsara. But there's no end to samsara for those who do not seek the path towards salvation. So there are two answers for, regarding the end of samsara, but one answer for the beginning of samsara, and that is that there's no beginning to samsara. It's beginningless. So you understand that all sentient beings have been your mother multiple times since beginningless time in samsara, and understand that you have had a very long-lasting connection with them, and you feel pity towards them, and you recite again, oh, my poor mother, and you recite that multiple times. But it's not just this that you should recite, oh, my poor mother. You need to recite this whole thing, this whole line, this person has been my mother not just once, but countless times since beginningless time in samsara. Oh, my poor mother. So you should recite it, the whole thing. And then on top of that, you build you further build on the understanding as we move on to the third meditation of the gradual meditation. Each time this person was my mother, she did not care about her life and body. The only thing she would ever think of or consider was me. She has done an incredible amount for me and protected me from inestimable harm. Oh, my dear old mother. So here you are contemplating on the nature of her kindness when she was your mother in your past life, even though you do not remember that, and that's fine. This is the contemplation which you need to think of. So each time this person was my mother, she put your well-being, her child's well-being, which is you, above her own well-being. And that is what most mothers do. And all she did was care about me or consider my happiness. And in that way, she has done an incredible amount for me. She has shown an incredible amount of kindness towards me and has protected me from much harm. That's true because, first of all, the mother has shown you the kindness of carrying you in the womb. Sometimes we also find that people don't have a good relationship with their mother because the mother neglected her duties as a mother towards her child. And in that sense, it may certainly be difficult to practice kindness towards your mother because you feel like you don't have much reason to, especially when she has neglected you. But in the Buddhist sense, even though that may be the case, she still gave birth to you, and giving birth is no easy feat. And it also comes along with a lot of pain and suffering. And also it takes a while. The child is in the womb of the mother for many months. And so the very fact that she has carried you in her womb itself or alone can be considered a kindness in that case. And a reason to feel compassion towards even sort of like a mother who has been a failure to you, or if that's how you see it. And in most cases, after you are born, you do not know how to speak. You do not know how to really eat on your own without the help of a mother. So the mother feeds you, the mother bathes you, the mother puts clothes on you, the mother makes sure that you do not get harmed, as you still cannot look after yourself and all that. And in that way, the mother has shown many different ways of, many different forms of kindness towards you. So you bring all of that to mind. And then say, of course, oh, my dear old mother. And you say that and as several times, and that helps you to get familiar with this kind of contemplation. Moving forward, Khyentse Wangpo writes, even though the two of us were mother and child throughout many lifetimes, at present this person is unaware of ever having been my mother because of separation through birth and death. For the same reason, I too was unaware that I used to be this person's child. Out of control, as if they were insane, they brought all kinds of harm upon me. How terribly sad. If my present mother were to become insane or possessed by a demon and were to attack me with a weapon, how incredibly sad that would be. Oh, my poor mother, her mind is confused by fierce hatred and she has become like an insane person. I must immediately find the best possible means to help her. So this is quite a detailed contemplation. But anyways, this is as what I mentioned earlier, that we do not recall her kindness because our memories get erased the moment we take a new rebirth or new birth or existence. But anyways, the point is that we should understand that this was the case, that although they were very loving towards us in the past, it's not that they didn't want to continue to be loving towards us, but it's just that they forgot who we are, or they forgot our connection with them. And so they cannot be blamed. They are unaware in the present that they had at a previous point been one's mother in a past life. And all of this occurred at the separation of birth and death because of that. And not just do they not remember us, but we also don't remember them as well. So it's mutual. And as it says here, out of control. So why are they out of control? It's because they are bound by the negative emotions, the chain of negative emotions, and they have not been able to suppress them or control them. And so it's like they have gone deranged or insane. They end up doing a lot of things that they don't really mean to, a lot of harm towards us. And that, when you think about the situation, it's very sad. It's very sad to think of someone who you once loved and who once loved you, now harming you in the present moment. It's a very sad kind of thing or situation. And you also think that should think that of your present mother, which is should be easier to think of compared to other beings as your mother, because we have all of the memories of this life, at least since we were born. And so it's easy to think about present mother. And just imagine, what if my present mother were to, who you love very much, were to go through all these kinds of suffering? What if they were to go insane? What if she were to go insane or possessed by a demon or to attack me with a weapon? How sad would that be? Well, it has happened now because all sentient beings were one's mother and they have done that. So we've come to this kind of very sad situation. And so you feel pity and say, oh, my poor mother. And you say that again and again. The main point of saying that is for you yourself to hear it. Other people don't need to hear that. At least you yourself need to hear that. It makes it easier. Sometimes we say that, oh, like the Lama, the teacher told me to meditate on compassion, but I cannot do it. It just doesn't seem to arise in the mind. But usually the moment you hear something like compassion, you hear compassion, and then it's easy to actually think of it right immediately after you hear that word compassion. So I think that's the purpose of saying, oh, my poor mother. And then as you say it, and right after you immediately hear yourself saying that, it just supports the contemplation of compassion. And you also should think her mind is confused by fierce hatred, and she has become like an insane person. I must immediately find the best possible means to help her. So this is like basically filial piety. You see that she is suffering and that you owe her a lot and that you need to repay her kindness, regardless of if she remembers you or not in this life. That doesn't matter. What matters was that she was your mother in the past life, and that She's suffering now, and she will continue to suffer if you don't do something about it. And so now you must step up and help her. And building on top of this, we come to the fifth contemplation. Motivated by hatred, not only toward myself, but also toward many other sentient beings, this person has accumulated extremely bad karma, by the power of which they will be reborn in the great hells. With no way out, they must undergo unbearable suffering. How sad. So here you're also understanding that if you don't do something about it, it's going to get really bad for them. So here you understand or contemplate that because they have hatred and they harbor hatred in their minds, not just towards you, it's not a personal thing, but also because they have hatred, whether it's direct or indirect, they at least have the potential to hate others as well. And in many cases, they do hate others as well. So because of this, as all causes have their correct results, or the correct results follow the correct causes, through this kind of action, they are accumulating a lot of bad karma, negative karma. And due to that, as a result, they are most likely to be reborn in the hell realms. And once they are reborn in the hell realms, there is almost no way out. You end up in the hell realms for many, many aeons, and the suffering is, of course, very intense. So if all of this were to happen, how sad would that be? So you should think of that, how sad. And then, as Khyentse Wangpo writes, meditate from the bottom of your heart on each of these 5 reasons for compassion, and recite them many hundreds and thousands of times. As you do these recitations, you will develop heartfelt compassion for the object of your contemplation, so strong that tears flow from your eyes. Once this occurs, gradually extend your reflection to other adversaries, and then to your loved ones, neighbors, fellow countrymen, and so on, up to all sentient beings, infinite as space. So this is very good. If you really want to get used to the practice of meditation on compassion, you should follow the gradual meditation process outlined here, presented here with the 5 reasons. And you should do this many hundreds and thousands of times. It doesn't mean in a single day, but as you do it every day, it builds up, and it gradually becomes hundreds and thousands of times. It reaches that number. And as you do these recitations, it's not just a lot of this had to do like with verbal. It was a verbal practice where you say it out, but you should, as you say it out, you should also genuinely feel it. Feel heartfelt compassion for the object of your contemplation, which is your enemy, or even if you don't consider that person as your enemy, it's someone who causes you harm, who does harm towards you. If they consider your enemy, that's also fine, even if you don't necessarily consider them as your enemy. But in most cases, I'm sure we all have our own individual favorite enemy, so we can choose them. So just continually do this, and up until the point where the feelings become so intense that tears flow down from your eyes and your cheeks. And that's good. Usually it's of course it's a sign of progress. When you first start this, it's quite unlikely that you'll have tears, but sometimes you'll the practitioners, they like to ask, okay, but when I practice compassion, what will be the signs that I've perfected it, or that my practice is correct or genuine? And this is one of the signs here. Just do it until you don't forcefully, have tears, but it becomes natural. You just you're so deep into the contemplation where it just becomes so unbearable. In a way, it's when we think about some people, maybe modern Buddhists, when they think about Buddhist meditation, it's all about pleasant, something pleasant, where your mind is, tranquil and everything is pleasant and relaxed and all of that. It sounds very nice, and like the idea of like Zen meditation, for example. But in the traditional Buddhist meditation, we also have what could perhaps be called depressing meditation, where you contemplate on the suffering of beings, and you cry and do all of that. But anyways, this is a good sign if the tears flow naturally from your eyes, and you should practice until you get to that point. And it doesn't mean that when I say that, it doesn't mean that when you start having tears, then you stop the meditation. Of course, you should continue, but that's a good checkpoint, I guess you would say, in your practice. And also, Khyentse Wangpo says that once this occurs, once you get to this point, then gradually you should extend your compassion to other enemies, adversaries. So up until this point, you've been practicing it towards your main sort of enemy. Now you do it to the smaller adversaries, I guess you would say, and then to your loved ones, neighbors, fellow countrymen, and all that, and eventually extend it towards all sentient beings, and as infinite as space. So I think there are different ways to approach this. In some teachings, you start with your own mother from this life, because that's easier to practice. And then from there on, you practice it towards your other loved ones, your friends, your relatives, and then towards your neighbors, and then your fellow countrymen, and then you approach your enemy, and you practice it towards your enemy. But in this case, you practice it towards your enemy first, because as Khyentse Wangpo made a point earlier, once you're able to do this, then the rest is it's all a piece of cake, so it's quite easy. So once you overcome this barrier, which is to practice it towards your enemy, then everything else will work out. So this is what you should focus on first. And to continue with this, as in the practice of the flow of compassion, and the fourth reason for compassion already mentioned, because of separation through birth and death, we, mother and child, are like a heap of peas that have been hit by a stone. We wander about, unable to recognize, let alone help each other. Without having even heard or seen each other, we have been scattered in different places. Whatever happiness or suffering may happen to my mother, she is worthy of compassion. So this seems to be building on the fourth reason for compassion as well. And it's a further contemplation on that. Of course, we don't remember each other in this life. And you can think of analogy, an example. It's like if there were a heap of peas, and you just suddenly threw a stone towards that heap of peas, then since heap of peas are quite light, and then it's quite small, it's going to just scatter into the four directions. It will scatter everywhere. Earlier it was heaped together, now it's all scattered. And so likewise, similar to that, we have been separated. Earlier, mother and child were together in our past lives, but in the current in the current situation, we have been scattered just like a heap of peas hit by a stone. We've been scattered in different directions. We're perhaps born in different countries. We're born in, we speak different languages. We have different ideologies. We become very different from each other, very distant from each other. But still, that doesn't change the fact that we once had a connection in our past life, a connection of a mother and a child. And but in this life, we are all, we don't recognize each other. We're so lost, and we're unable to help each other. And it doesn't really matter. When we say that you need to practice compassion towards all sentient beings, even in this world, in our single lifetime, we will not meet every human being that exists. There will be a lot of people that we will meet, and there will be also a great number of people that we will perhaps never meet in this lifetime, but we know exists in this same planet that we're living in. And so likewise, also in other universes, it doesn't matter whether you meet them in this life or not. You at least need to think about them. Your thoughts should be with them. That is what matters. And so whatever happiness or suffering may happen to my mother, she is worthy of compassion. So usually we think that if a person does good, or then we would say that if a person does good and they end up living a happy life, we will say, oh yes, well, she or he deserved to be happy. They did so many good things. They did so many charity work. They were so kind to people, this and that. And that if we find perhaps some criminal who gets away with their crimes and ends up living a happy life, we're like, oh, they didn't deserve that. And that it's natural to think of that. But as a practitioner, that none of that matters. Whether people experience happiness or suffering, whether they seem to deserve that happiness or not, everyone is worthy of your compassion and worthy of your concern and your thoughts, because they have all been your mother in your past life. And continuing with this teaching, after you have wholeheartedly meditated like this, imagine how wonderful it would be if these mothers of mine actualized the state of a supreme deity. Think that, as a consequence of that, all your mother sentient beings swiftly transform into a Yidam deity in which appearance and emptiness are inseparably united. Then settle your mind in an open state, free of thoughts and conceptual elaboration. This will help you to make progress and enhance your compassion. So here it seems that we are now integrating some sort of Vajrayana elements into the practice of compassion. So you think how wonderful it would be if they could actualize the state of a supreme deity, which is basically a Buddha. And as a consequence of that, you should then visualize that all of your mothers appear in the form of a Yidam deity. And that Yidam deity is, in appearance, is very colorful. And I think since no specific name of a Yidam deity has been provided, you can visualize them as any Yidam deity of your preference. It should be fine. But also preferably, Yidam deity like Avalokiteshvara, since that has much to do with compassion, the embodiment of compassion, as Avalokiteshvara is. So it would be good to think of Avalokiteshvara, or you can think of Tara or any other deity that you wish to think of, and that your mother's sentient being, the sentient beings who have been your mother in a past life, all appear in the form of a deity, very vivid, very colorful, just like a rainbow, but empty in essence or nature. And so there is a combination, inseparability between appearance and emptiness, almost like two sides of a coin. And so you should think of them in that way, and just settle your mind in an open state, free of thoughts and conceptual elaboration. So just rest your mind in the natural space, without any conceptual without any conceptual thoughts, without any worries, without free from hope or fear, and just let it be as natural as it can be. And this will help you to make progress and enhance your compassion. So I think that this helps. Obviously, it's a combination of compassion with emptiness. And so we also have a type of compassion called non-conceptual compassion. So I believe this is the way to train, or the particular technique that Khyentse Wangpo provides for this mind training in developing or generating non-conceptual compassion. And also thinking of the sentient beings as a supreme deity, it's a way to quickly deliver them to a supreme Buddhahood through a Vajrayana method, because you're not really thinking of them as any ordinary beings anymore at this point, but now as a supreme deity, like a Yidam, a fully enlightened deity. So you're actualizing the result which is Buddhahood. So you're sort of creating what we say, the tendel, I guess you would say, the auspicious conditions for them to attain Buddhahood. And now for the conclusion. The source of the Mahayana path is the mind of compassion, a stream of nectar swiftly granting benefit and happiness. The supreme cure that quenches hatred's burning fires. Rely on it continually, and Buddhahood is at your fingertips. May the words by which I have expounded this most excellent discourse on compassion be seeds of merit that produce a pleasure grove of benefit and happiness. So what this means is that the main essence of Mahayana practice, or the path of the Mahayana, the path to full enlightenment, is the mind of compassion. Without that, if the practice of compassion is absent, then none of the other practices have any effect. With compassion absent, it renders everything else useless. Or even if not completely useless, it will not contribute to the attainment of full enlightenment, even though it may bring some temporary benefits, such as rebirth in the higher realms, or long life and good health, and success in your temporary endeavors. And compassion is like the supreme cure that quenches hatred's burning fire. So this is true because no thoughts can coexist in the mind, at the same time. So if you have hatred or anger, then you don't have compassion or loving kindness. But if you have loving kindness or compassion in your mind and your mind is filled with those thoughts, then there's no room or space for there to be anger or hatred. They cannot coexist. So it is like the supreme cure that quenches the hatred's burning fire. So the hatred or anger is like the fire, and the compassion is sort of like the nectar or the cure to control that fire. So you should rely on compassion continually. And if you do so, then Buddhahood is at your fingertips. So this is similar to one of the, there's a passage from a sutra in which Avalokiteshvara informs the Buddha that if you were to have one quality, it would be like having all of the qualities of the within the palm of your hand, all of the enlightened qualities. And that one single quality is compassion, because it is that quality that attracts all other positive or wonderful qualities that are conducive to the attainment of enlightenment. And then, so Khyentse Wangpo says, may the words by which I have expounded this most excellent discourse on compassion be seeds of merit that produce a pleasure grove of benefit and happiness. So this is the dedication of merit. It's very important to dedicate the merit at the end of any kind of Dharma practice, or even if, in this case, if you're writing a work, it's important to dedicate the merit so that the merit is safely stored. It does not become exhausted, so that it can continually reap benefits. So dedication and merit is basically, it's a prayer in which you wish, in the Mahayana context, it's a prayer in which you wish that may the merit that which I have accumulated to such and such an action serve as a cause for all sentient beings to attain enlightenment. And in this case, Khyentse Wangpo is making the prayer, the dedication, that may the merit accumulated by writing this work on compassion sow the seeds for the future enlightenment of sentient beings, and may it serve as the cause for the attainment of happiness. And so this is the dedication of merit. And then we come to the colophon. The carefree yogi named Manchu Gosha compiled this text from a very concise instruction manual by Nesalpa Jamyang Khyentse Wangpo. May it be virtuous. So with this, I have completed the teaching. So thank you.
Thank you so much, dear Rinpoche. Would you have, so there are like 2 or 3 questions, and there's also the request for Lung. Would that be possible?
Yes, sure. Yeah.
You want to start with the questions or with the Lung?
Maybe the Lung. We'll start with the Lung then.
Do you have the Tibetan text? Otherwise, I can send it to you.
I'll look for the original text, because I have received the Lung for the original text, not the one by Khyentse Wangpo though. So I'll give the original one. Let me just look for it. Okay. Paden berwa be lojong la so namora na guru paden berwa be sha ne thome zewe kyang ba yi tinjen na la ni je sam ne je din ne da ge ma ngwen se ya ya pe da ga nyam ba da wo ra wa me mi ge le ge na me gyu de da chen be sisum la ni je ta jing gyu wa yin sung ta la nyam me ni je nan jo ne ni je te ba chen be chue ge za wa yin di me na paru du chen ba chu la so ba da tam zi gi ge zo la so lam chi zam ye ge te wa me ba long de cham ba ni je chang ju gi sem ge be cham ba ne pen do ba yin la ni je ne ne je ne to cha ne gong de ne me ba lu gi chue lam cha nyam kyang do sem ge cha rang yi dam du sam chi wo lam ma gom rang shin la ne ba tsap che che be da wo da wo chik dun do mi la ni je gyun da te ba ni pel ma gom tha bo lu jim sem tse ju do ne je la mi la nga do da la ne ba che ba de ni le je gya mu nga chu am nye ji chang wa ni gyun gom ba wo ni ba ni je ne je di ge wa nga ma pen je gi ma yin nge be ma di ni le je nyam do sam ne yang yang chang ji chi ni je na ma yang len ji ni che ba ma yin de len chang ma bu che be ni le je nyam do sam ne yang chang ji chi ni je na man nam che re gi pen pa do me ba da be ni le je nyam do sam ne yang chang ji chi ni je na zhi ma ne pen do wa yin na ta da ne ba che ba chi da yin na ne je di ma yin yang she ba la rang wang ma to be nyen ba da da zhi sem jen la ke ba do rang gi pu la ne ba che ba ni le je nyam do sam ne yang chang ji ning je na te da ne ba che be gi na me ba la so ba ge ne dung a cha be sir ba gi ro ne je ge ma de ni le je nyam do sam ne yang chang te da mi ba da chang wa da ning je be gi sam ba nga pe ma sam be mi ne chim ma chung wa da lu gi pa bu dang wa lu sem gi sung mi tu ba so da gi chen be ni je ji da wa shin ge ne ne je di e to chang be sem chen tham je gi tön do sang ge to ba cha nyam do sem ge la ne je da sem chen tham je gi yi dam gi ko bang to ba sam la zhe me gi yi shi la yu ren do sha nam do yun la na ngo wa cha wo te dal ji la chi da wa shin ge ne che ba ra ma dang chung nam la yang sam tene nye de yulmi pyo zambu ling shi tong sum ne kai kyabe gombe nye je tseme ba gyuro tedar gombe rangi shedang kontro la so ba rangshi zene duen la so ba da rangshi la dro semjen tamje la ma puchik ba dara tsewe samsu gyuro dreme ki ishi kebara jen kewo nipa tsawe gyu inan jo ne chinang dreba misun be lo de chuba gyurwe tse dada shindu jeba ye chanju semde temperature tene duda ne nyamon so jomshin dreme ishi gyuro je sumbe namken tobe gyune chanju ki sem yinbe tela gunzo dan tandam chanju ki sem ni le tandam ne dreme ki ishi yino tambo la mando yege diri dashin jebe nyamne lame sumba ni lula ne chabu da sem la nyangen niga la dunga dan jadun chi jungwa chuba nyamon ba chabu la soba kebe tusu teni lamdu chabe shedang chabu kena da shedang di semchen shedang namgi shedang gyu je dan jeba ngai di la mimbra gyu je yang semchen ki gyu la nyamon be diwu dunga tamche tsawa da zingi keba tamche da la mimbra gyu je cheda do nyawe tso sek so yidang yida zhegom tuju sokol lama yin la tazu hala dungwe dunga so mi la kega na chi la so neba namgi ne ulbo namgi ulbon ba wangbo ma tsangwa namgi dunga wa tabje dagi dila minba gyuje tangzhon ne sada lamgi ge tamche da mitunbe cho tamche ngayi shedang dila minba gyuje che lunga yisum jimla ze judo semjin ki dunga tamche rangla dushin ne tedar chuze chigam nisam sumla sobe pardo ze judo gom chisi nyumombe namdo te mashi pardo sam negi sungu mashi pardo lamdo chawo semjin kungi dunga dala min she ngado judo tene rangi tsoni gi gyunda jivu gewa chinye tamche nyingani nima shabe wese dara chode semjin la pobe semjin tamche kudang ishi gi rangi rangshin idam laye ngogo la gobar samo tene dreme gi ishi gi ngala shabe ishi kebar chin charo namdo yun lana gewa ngogo le tambo be tedara nyamsu langso gomne namdo chara chigbadang dunga la soba kanga junya nga matara jikdo jila tse jido cha nga do dagi gewe tegun detopsho che jedo dagi lu longcho gewa nam semje la mine same gi dewa toba sam mi be tal nyur yin tuen la keme songso je ngar dan jawo kunzo chanju ki sem la negam namdo nyomong she ne duen le jol kego kedo tamje la pendo wangdo gyoro tadu longo chugu satomne maong ba na shinden pusun choba drubo tendam chanju ki sem ki chugu sabyen topde 차겨 첨부 초기 응어줍 톱 대다고 된제 좀나 랑기 룡아 이숨 다 지릭수 중어 케버도 셰바 송징이 세메 동바시네 시네달 하동 규라 차로 대가랑라 대가라 랑리베 이시 끼지마 셰자와 끼지 이시 응아 응어네데 심 동바 미도바 추고 랑리바 롱고 사바데 주고 대숨 뭐 예메 방어 니기고 셰바데니 저바 탐제다 잡에 춘이기 이시 춘이기 인기 이시소 대니랑 동바 toba me long tawo rang riba soso toba rang salwa chawa jube ishe te ye me ba nyaba nigi ishe paden biro be gomba jizun darben acharye sung lowo lo tsawe ti nyame nyingje me nga gi gyuba ne doji chang birwa pa jizun dombi pa jizun mate wa tuto nika laba jizun raben taba cha lo tsawa chuje pa lama tamba shunu gyazen doji zimba mati shri lama ishi shap sambe pa te buddha rena la te kirti shri la te jaya badra la te punya renna la te shunu gyalcho la te dala wo te le chungwe gewa namda de korwa nebe semjen tamche la toni ninjen hasan namda gi same de la nyudu ge bara sho. Okay.
Thank you so much. Can we ask a few questions or?
Yes, sure.
Okay, one question was about if somebody is wishing you harm. So apart from practicing compassion, maybe reciting some mantras, what else could we do?
What else? I think that's all that you can really do. Unless you want to befriend them, you want to find a way to sort of because this reciting mantras and visualization, that's all done without having to directly interact with that so-called enemy or person who's creating harm towards you. Another way is just to find perhaps what you have in common. Think of what you have in common more than what you have in uncommon, or think of the similarities, the differences. Sometimes we think of a lot of the differences more than the similarities, and then we feel distant, like very far, or we feel very different from them. But if you think about it, the similarities that we all wish to be happy and we all don't wish to suffer, you'll find that it's easier to relate to other people, and it will be easier to understand them. And of course, you can try to become friends with them, and then that will also make it easier for you to sort of see them in a more positive light, because your relationship with them will have changed by then.
Thank you. And yeah, you explained so nicely, of course, what the mothers went through when they gave birth to us and so on. But could we nevertheless maybe also think of our past fathers or siblings or future kids, or family members in the future even, like could we think that the present person is one of them,
Yes, I think you can do that. When we say all sentient beings have been one's mother in a past life, it also means that since, as I said, there's samsara is beginningless, we have had countless births, which means that we've also had countless parents. We also have had countless fathers, and also countless brothers and sisters, and it applies for everything else as well. And sometimes, I see in Dharma communities or Dharma practitioners where they're interested in practicing the Dharma, in accumulating merit, in recollecting the Buddha, and doing practices like that, but they just find it so difficult to socialize with other fellow Dharma practitioners. If sometimes, if it's difficult to socialize with other sentient beings like who follow a different faith, that's somewhat understandable. But even within the Dharma community, there are so many so-called Dharma practitioners who have jealousy towards each other, or there's competition, and so many basically Dharma students don't, Dharma practitioners don't see fellow Dharma practitioners as they should, you know. And so sentient beings, you know, like just as Buddhas are important to a practitioner's life in order to attain enlightenment. Buddha is the guide who shows you the path, and the Buddha is the object of your veneration and the object of your accumulation of merit from, you know, who, if you visualize and pay homage to, you can accumulate merit and then traverse on the path. Yes, that's true. But also we sometimes fail to understand that sentient beings are equally important to the mission, equally important to Dharma practitioners, just as the Buddhas are, because you cannot attain enlightenment without bodhicitta, which also means, you know, for bodhicitta to generate bodhicitta, you need compassion. Compassion is the cause for bodhicitta. And for compassion, you need an object of meditation, which is the beings who are suffering. So sentient beings are the object of your compassion. So without sentient beings, you cannot attain enlightenment, and you cannot attain the highest level of happiness, right? So I think we at times fail to understand that, and there's so much unnecessary negative outlook, I guess, towards other fellow Dharma practitioners. And for Vajrayana practitioners, we have a term called Vajra relatives, or Vajra brothers and sisters. So at times, I think not all traditions have the same interpretation for that. The name itself is there, but then we understand it in different ways. I think in other traditions, other than Sakya, Vajra brothers and sisters are those who have sort of received an abhisheka, you know, empowerment from the guru, from one guru in one mandala, in one group. And that's what makes you Vajra brothers and sisters. But in the Sakya tradition, it's much more difficult because it doesn't matter. Even if you've never met a fellow practitioner, like as long as you've received empowerment in a Vajrayana tradition, you are already Vajra brothers and sisters, even if you've never met, even if you don't share the same guru, even if you are not initiated in the same mandala, you're already Vajra brothers and sisters. So for Sakyas, we need to be especially more careful when it comes to, you know, like Dharma groups, because Kagyu, Nyingma, Gelug, any tradition practitioners of those traditions are all our Vajra brothers and sisters, as long as they've been initiated into a Vajrayana, you know, empowerment. So yeah, I hope that helps. Yeah.
I'm sure. Then there's another question. So how to make sure that we don't feel pity with somebody, because it is saying like, oh, the poor enemy, you know, that is what is said in the text. And pity would, of course, be something else than compassion, you know, and having that respect.
So if I understood that correctly, what is the difference between the two?
Yes, and how to make sure that one is not feeling pity.
How is one, Sai?
How to make sure that we are not just feeling pity and looking down at somebody who needs help, you know, but that we keep the eye-to-eye level, sort of.
Yes. So pity alone is, my understanding is that, you know, you just understand, you see it as, oh, how sad, right? That is sort of like what pity is. And then compassion, it should be the compassion in the Mahayana context, which is may sentient beings be may all sentient beings be endowed, be freed from the suffering and the causes of suffering. So it has something to do with the cause and result. But I mean, of course, usually I think pity has something to do with looking down, right? Like you're a little above and a little down. And in a way, it is the case because you as a Dharma practitioner have found the path to enlightenment. You've come across the teachings of the Buddha, but you understand that sentient beings, not all sentient beings have had that fortune. So they're a little less fortunate, I guess. That's how you should understand it. But then pity is, that is probably the general understanding that, there's some lower than you. And, but then again, that's not all, perhaps, translations do justice, right, to the original. So perhaps that is something that the translator found as the closest, maybe, to the word that they needed to translate. And then that's fine, I think. But I think we can understand, and it's been translated as pity, but I think we can understand that when we read this in this text. The word pity used in this text is something like, just simply take it as how sad, right? I think that's a safer way of approaching that.
Thank you. One last question. Have you heard of the term compassion fatigue? When we, for example, listen to many news, and then there's so much suffering in the world and there are many wars. And that is so overwhelming that we that we are overwhelmed, and then we get even maybe exhausted or burned out, by feeling so much empathy. And then we shut down, or close ourselves and feel numb. Do you have any idea how to deal with that so that we still stay open and tender?
Yeah. I think if you've not gone through the gradual meditation presented here, and you've not really thought compassion through, and you're not very familiar with it, all of this, if you just directly approach or hear all of these news, for some people it may be overwhelming. But if you've gone through this process, and I think and then seeing the news, it just sort of confirms what has been said here, and it should be able to support. But of course, that will not be the case for everyone. So if it becomes too overwhelming, and then just of course you should take a break, calm down, and try to calm down, and then approach it, these kind of meditations, when you feel you're ready again. I think that's perhaps the only advice I can give.
Okay. Thank you so much, Rinpoche. For me personally, it was so lovely to see you again. And I'm sure everybody enjoyed your teaching. And Dorma, do you want to say something?
Yes, Rinpoche, thank you so much for teaching us, especially this perfect topic for Mother's Day. It was really lovely to have the opportunity to do that meditation and to hear your explanation on this precious text. So thank you so much. Please teach us again. We would love to have you back as a guest teacher for Khyentse Vision Project. And for those of you who haven't checked out our reading room yet, please visit khyentsevision.org to look at our other translations. And we will be having a special guest teacher each month for our Text of the Month initiative. And there will also be a follow-up tutorial session on this teaching and this text that Arne will be hosting, which is really just a relaxed discussion going a little bit more in depth with some of the things that Rinpoche has been talking about and some of the questions, other questions we didn't get time to answer today. So thank you again on behalf of all of Khyentse Vision Project, and please come again. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And then finally, I would like to wish everyone, all the mothers especially, a very happy Mother's Day, and all the best in your Dharma practice. And of course, thank you to Arne and Dharma for having me here today for the teaching. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And let's just conclude with a dedication. By this merit, having attained omniscience and defeated the enemy of wrongdoing, may I free all beings from the ocean of existence with its tumultuous waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death. And then Dhungsey Rinpoche's long life prayer. Amitayus, foremost of the deathless, victorious one, Tarema, freeing from the conditions of death and sickness and obstacles, Vijaya, victorious over the Lord of Death and his demon host, may the three supreme immortal deities bestow glory of long life. Eloquent one from the family lineage with three excellent names, with a discernment that is delight to the doctrine and beings, taming as appropriate without obstruction through your Vajra activity, may this great ruler of the three realms live long. By the power of praying sincerely in that way, may we have the good fortune of your living long, upholding and spreading the tradition of this aberrant Sakya path through explication and practice, which greatly increase study and reflection. Thank you so much, Dhungsey Rinpoche. Please live long, be healthy, and please, visit us again here.
Thank you.
And thank you, everybody. Thank you, the translators. Bye-bye.